Time to dive back into the world of hacking.
Ooh, hacking. Exciting.
We're going deep today, past those Hollywood tropes,
All right.
and getting into how some basic coding skills can really,
Yeah.
turn you from a, what do they call them, a script kiddie,
Oh, yeah.
into, dare I say it,
Okay.
a digital mastermind.
I like that. Using code to, like, unlock the secrets of the digital world.
Exactly. And the language we're using to crack the code this time.
Let me guess. It's Python, isn't it?
You got it. Python. Forget those complex algorithms and all that, right?
Right.
Think of Python as like the ultimate hacking Swiss Army knife.
I like that analogy. Versatile, powerful, essential for any good hacker's toolkit.
Exactly. And our source this time,
Ugh.
Linux Basics for Hackers.
Catchy title.
It really emphasizes how crucial Python is in this world.
Okay.
They actually call it the language for building hacking tools.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
And it's all because of its libraries. Have you heard of those?
I'm familiar with libraries, yes.
Yeah.
But for our listeners who might not be, what are we talking about here?
Good point. So libraries in Python, they're basically like...
Pre-built code modules?
Yes, exactly. Pre-built code modules. It's like having cheat codes for complex tasks.
I was going to say it's like having a whole arsenal of tools at your disposal ready to be used.
Right. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you want to do something cool.
Exactly. It's the difference between, say, forging a sword from scratch
Okay.
versus having a whole armory full of them at your disposal.
I like that. And these libraries, they give even beginner hackers, right?
Yeah.
The power to create some really impressive tools.
Oh, absolutely. It's like giving a novice chef the keys to a fully stocked professional kitchen.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
Suddenly, they're not just chopping vegetables, they're whipping up gourmet meals.
And speaking of tools, the book throws around names like SquallMap,
Right.
Scapy, Sesset.
Interesting. Each designed for specific hacking goals, I presume.
Oh, absolutely. So for instance, let's say you want to find a vulnerability in a website.
Okay.
Like you're probing for a weak spot, right?
Sort of like looking for a loose brick in a fortress wall.
Yeah, exactly. That's where SquallMap comes in.
Interesting. So SquallMap is like our digital crowbar, prying open those vulnerabilities.
Yes. And what about, have you ever wanted to like intercept data?
Intercept data, you mean like a digital spy?
Yeah. Like
That-
redirecting a package to a different destination.
Manipulating the flow of information through the network.
Exactly. That's where you would use Scapy.
Okay, Scapy. So if Squamic is our crowbar, Scapy is more like our stealthy interception device.
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
Rerouting data packets, snatching information from the digital airwaves.
Now we're talking. And then there's SETT.
Set. That one sounds intriguing.
This one's all about, get this, exploiting human psychology.
Oh, so we're getting into the realm of social engineering.
Exactly. Phishing attacks, things like that.
It's a toolkit built for deception.
Sneaky stuff.
Yeah.
So knowing these tools exist, that's one thing, right?
Right.
But our source really argues that it's understanding how they're built
Okay.
that separates those,
The amateurs from the pros.
Yes, exactly. It's like the difference between,
Using a map versus knowing how to navigate using the stars.
ooh, yes, that's a good one.
It's about having the knowledge to adapt, to customize, to build your own tools when the need arises.
Because sometimes you don't have the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where a deeper understanding of Python comes into play.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So speaking of building, the book walks us through
Yeah.
adding these Python modules,
Right.
to our arsenal.
Which is essentially like installing new tools in our hacking toolkit, right?
Exactly. So we're adding more tools to our Swiss Army knife.
Precisely. Now, Python comes with some built-in modules ready to go from the get-go.
Oh, okay.
But then there's this whole universe of third-party ones, too.
Oh, wow.
It's like an app store, but for hackers.
So if I want to install them, what do I do?
You use pip.
Pip. What's pip?
Pip is the package installer for Python.
So if I wanted to use, like, let's say that Nmap module the book mentioned.
Nmap, the port scanner.
Yeah, the one for scanning ports.
Right.
All I have to do is type in pip3 install Nmap. Like, that's it.
Pretty much. It downloads the module and integrates it into your Python environment.
So it's like downloading a power-up for your hacking skill.
Exactly. And trust me, there's a module for practically anything you can think of.
Get out.
Want to automate tasks, wrangle data, even build your
Yeah.
own AI-powered tools.
No way.
There's probably a Python module for that.
Okay, now that is both incredibly cool
Right.
and also slightly terrifying. But Before we get ahead of ourselves,
Sure.
the book mentions something about directories, like
Yes.
needing to know where these modules are stored on your system.
Right.
What's that all about?
It's all about control and customization. Knowing where your tools are is essential if you want to modify or fine-tune them.
So it's like knowing where your tools are in your garage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think of it like a mechanic knowing their way around an engine.
Instead of just popping the hood and being like, uh-oh, something's wrong.
Precisely. You need to know what you're looking at if you want to make any real changes.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so we've got our Python toolkit all set up, right, eh?
Ready to deploy some code?
Time to put these modules to work. Let's see what kind of mischief we can get into.
The possibilities with Python, oh, they're practically limitless.
But you got to start with the basics, right?
Always. Even master hackers had to start somewhere.
True. And luckily for us, our source walks us through building a simple Python script.
A good starting point.
Honestly, it's way less intimidating than you might think.
Oh yeah, Python is known for being beginner-friendly.
That's good to know. Although I have to say that first line always throws me off.
Ah, you mean the shebang.
The what now?
The hashtag USR bin Python 3. That's called a shebang.
Shebang. Okay. See, it's like secret code, right?
It's basically just telling the system, hey, use Python 3 to run this script.
So, like, we're choosing the right language to talk to the computer.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay, so I've got our shebang. Then the book lays out this simple script, right? To
Yeah.
create a greeting, a hello world kind of thing.
A classic.
But it uses all these terms like variables and strings.
Right. Those are fundamental concepts in programming.
Oh, there's that print function too.
Ah, yes. That one's important. It's how we display information to the user.
Okay, so break it down for me. What are we talking about with variables and strings and all that?
Imagine a variable like a container, okay?
Okay, a container. Got it.
And a string is like the actual information we store inside that container.
So if the variable is a box, the string is whatever we put in the box.
Perfect analogy.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about that print function then? What's that do?
That's how we take whatever's in the box and show it to the world.
We're telling Python, hey, show this to the user.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've written our groundbreaking Hello World script. Time to unleash it on the world, right?
Not so fast.
Oh, what now?
We need to use the command command again, remember?
Chmod. That rings a bell.
It's about permissions, right?
Right. We talked about Linux permissions before. It's all about who has the authority to do what on the system. Okay, right. Like, can you read this file? Can you write to this file? Can you execute this file?
Exactly. And in this case, we need to give ourselves permission to execute the script, to actually run it.
So we're basically giving the script the green light to do its thing.
Precisely.
Okay, so maybe Hello World isn't gonna, like, get us on any hacker leaderboards or anything.
Maybe not yet, no.
But it's pretty cool to see how even just a tiny bit of code can actually start automating things.
And that's a key concept in hacking, isn't it? Automation.
Right. Why waste time doing something manually if you can get a computer to do it for you, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you'd have to do it over and over and over again.
Exactly. Think about things hackers do all the time. Testing passwords, scanning for vulnerabilities. These can be really repetitive tasks that would take forever to do by hand.
Right. Efficiency is key, especially when you're trying to stay one step ahead of, all the cybersecurity folks out there.
Absolutely.
And that reminds me, the book dives into lists and loops.
Yes. Lists and loops.
That's where my brain really started to see the potential for, let's just say, creative problem solving.
It's where the real power of coding starts to come in.
So what are we talking about here? What's a list?
Imagine a list, like, say, a shopping list.
Okay, I can do that.
It's just a structured way to store multiple items.
And each item on that list, that has what's called an index, right?
Exactly.
And the index is how we refer to a specific item, right?
Right. And remember, it all starts from 0.
0. Why Python? Why do you have to start counting at 0? It's so confusing.
Think of it like the floors in a European building. The ground floor is 0, first floor is 1, and so on.
Okay, I guess that kind of makes sense. I'll try to remember that. So lists, I get it. What about these for loops, then? Everyone seems to love a good for loop.
A for loop is where things get really interesting in terms of automation.
How so?
Because you're basically saying, for every item on this list, do this specific action.
Ooh, so we can automate a task and have it repeat for every item on the list.
Precisely.
Okay, I see the potential here. And the book actually gives an example of using a for loop to scan multiple ports on a system.
Classic hacking technique.
Right, so it's like you're trying to find an unlocked door into the system, and each port is a different door.
Exactly. Each port is a potential entry point, and a hacker wants to know which ones are open.
and what's running behind them.
Precisely.
Hmm.
And by using a for loop,
Yeah.
they can test hundreds, even thousands of ports automatically.
Talk about a time saver. Imagine trying to do that manually, checking each port one by one.
It would take forever.
Yeah.
But with a few lines of code, you can automate the entire process.
So we can knock on all the doors until we find one that's open.
And hopefully that open door leads to something interesting.
And once we find that open port, we probably want to know what we're dealing with, right?
Of course. You want to know what's running on the other side?
Right, right. And that's where banner grabbing comes in.
Banner grabbing, it's like looking for a name tag.
The name tag of the system running on that port.
Exactly. It can tell you things like the operating system, the version, what kind of service is running.
So it gives us valuable information about the system we're trying to, let's say, get to know better.
You could say that, yes.
And this is all done with code, right?
Absolutely.
The book lays out this script for banner grabbing, and it's incredible. It's like a few lines of code.
Yeah, it's quite elegant, actually.
And it automates this whole process of like knocking on ports and grabbing banners.
It's a beautiful demonstration of how powerful Python can be.
Pretty impressive, right? Okay, so we've covered standing ports, grabbing banners, automating with loops. We've really been busy.
We have. But we've only scratched the surface of what's possible with Python.
There's more.
Oh, much more. But how about we tackle one more juicy topic before we wrap things up?
I am all ears.
All right, then. How about a little password cracking?
Ooh, now we're talking. I knew this was coming. Our source actually goes deep on this one.
As it should. Password cracking is a fundamental part of ethical hacking.
Right, ethical hacking.
Huh.
Because we only hack for good, right?
Of course. Always with permission and always for the purpose of improving security.
Absolutely. So the book goes into this FTP password cracker script, and I have to admit, I'm a little lost.
Okay, well, FTP, that stands for File Transfer Protocol.
Yeah, I know what FTP stands for, but cracking passwords? How does that even work?
It's all about exploiting weaknesses in how systems store and authenticate passwords.
So, like, if a system doesn't have good security in place...
Exactly. This script, it uses a technique called brute force.
Brute force. Sounds aggressive.
It can be. Essentially, it tries different password combinations, one after another.
Until it gets it right.
Precisely. It's like trying every key on a giant keychain until you find the one that unlocks the door.
But that could take forever. Imagine trying every single password combination possible.
It could, which is why brute force attacks can take a long time. But that's where the beauty of Python comes in. This script leverages something called a try-except structure.
Okay, a try-except structure. I am not familiar with that one.
It's like a safety net for your code.
It's a safety net.
So the try block, that's where we attempt to use a password. And if it's wrong, which it probably will be, right,
Right.
we don't want the whole script to crash.
Oh, that makes sense. We don't want to start from scratch every time.
Exactly. So the except block, that's where we handle the error gracefully and loop back to try the next password.
So it just keeps chugging along, trying password after password until it finds the right one.
Or until it runs out of passwords to try, of course.
Okay, that's pretty clever. So we've got our brute force attack, our try-except safety net. Anything else I need to know?
Well, the book also mentions this thing about removing new line characters from passwords.
New line characters. What are those, and why are they in our passwords?
They're usually invisible to the human eye,
Invisible.
but they can really mess things up when you're comparing passwords.
So it's like we're trying to use the right key, but it's stuck sideways in the lock or something?
Exactly. A single extra character, even an invisible one, can throw off the whole process.
That's wild. You really have to be precise in this world.
Absolutely. One tiny mistake, and your whole plan goes out the window.
Well, I have to say, it's pretty amazing how much power a few lines of code can have.
It really is. And it's important to remember that this power can be used for good or for bad.
Right, right. Ethical hacking is key.
Absolutely. Knowing how these techniques work is crucial for anyone involved in cybersecurity.
So we can build stronger defenses and protect ourselves from those who might use this knowledge for malicious purposes.
Exactly. It's all about staying one step ahead in this digital arms race.
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into Python for hackers. We covered a lot of ground, from simple scripts to brute force attacks and everything in between.
And we've only scratched the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Python is a vast and powerful language with endless possibilities.
It's true. But I think the main takeaway here is that a little bit of coding knowledge can go a long way, both for those who want to break things and those who want to fix them.
Absolutely. And in the world of cybersecurity, knowledge is power.
Well said. So, to all our listeners out there, if you're feeling inspired to learn more about Python, ethical hacking, or anything else we talked about today, be sure to check out the show notes for links to resources and additional information.
Keep those firewalls strong and those passwords even stronger.
And until next time, happy hacking!